For the past few weeks, even cynical, hardened New Yorkers have been caught short by revelations of police corruption here. The poster boy for the new scandals is Officer Michael Dowd. He worked in the Black Ghetto, a big drug area, and he'd seemed a typical cop, 10-year veteran, 2 brothers in the force, son of a retired city firefighter. But since May of last year, he's been in jail because Officer Michael Dowd was a drug stealer and a drug dealer. Well, now for the first time since he was caught, Dowd has unburdened himself to a reporter. With his lawyer Marvin Hirsch at his side, I spoke with Dowd in the Manhattan jail where he awaits sentencing. He says his troubles began soon after he joined the force 10 years ago, when he says he realized his bosses did not want him to arrest drug dealers.
If you make an arrest when you take a couple crack vials off the street, your sergeant gets upset with you because you've taken yourself and maybe your partner off patrol. And he's got to do paperwork as well as you do for the next 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever it takes.
What are cops there for? What you're telling me is your superior officers didn't want you to make drug arrests?
That's a fact.
How many cracks you need, man?
Frustrated because he couldn't arrest the dealers, Dowd says that he and 15 to 20 other cops, his crew, started shaking down drug dealers.
It wasn't just my crew. It was every tour had a crew doing it.
And you would walk in on a drug dealer and...
Take whatever we wanted.
Take drugs, take cash, take whatever.
Whatever was there to be taken.
Actually, Dowd says he'd leave some of the drugs so the dealers wouldn't get too mad. He'd shake down about 5 dealers a day, keep the cash, sell the drugs, and make an extra $1,000 a week. And then he discovered he could hit the jackpot by stealing at crime scenes.
There was a guy laying on the floor dead. People in the city die for drugs and money.
So you figured you might make a score?
I figured that maybe there would be extra money or drugs laying around.
Were there?
Yes.
You scooped up the drugs?
Yes.
Now what do you do with the drugs?
Well, I had to walk past 15 cops to get it outside into the police car.
How'd you do it?
I just put the bag over my shoulder and I walked out the door with it.
A bag of cocaine?
Well, it didn't say cocaine on the bag.
And you walked past a line of cops, past the sergeant.
Well, they knew what I was doing. I know they knew, because they were smiling. Oh, here goes Mike.
And Mike was smiling when he struck it rich after a robbery.
In the basement, my partner and myself, and we found a couple of briefcases, and we had thought maybe it was cash in there, and we intended to take it. And when we realized we couldn't walk out with the briefcase, so my partner went and got a hacksaw and handed it to me, and I hacksawed the briefcase open.
And found what inside?
Half a kilo of cocaine.
And sold it for how much?
$14,000.
Dowd even arranged his own drug deals. This undercover police footage shows him giving a drug dealer a ride. During the ride, Dowd says, he bought some cocaine that he later resold. After a few years, Dowd finally hit the big time, making $4,000 a week, he says, selling his drugs back onto the street through a major drug dealer and warning that dealer about possible police raids. We were making $4,000 a week to deal drugs and $400 a week to be a cop.
Yes.
So how important was your police paycheck?
It really wasn't very important, truthfully.
You cashed it.
Deposited it. When I remembered to pick it up.
But Dowd's memory wasn't very good because he'd become an alcoholic and a coke addict. You actually snorted cocaine off the dashboard of your squad?
Yes. Yeah.
You're out on patrol.
Right.
And you're getting high.
Well, I was probably hungover, so I wanted to give myself a lift up.
And your partner's sitting beside you.
Yeah.
And isn't he saying, hey, Mike?
No, he was just watching out for me, making sure no one was looking.
Doing the same thing?
No, he wouldn't do cocaine.
How come?
He wasn't a drug addict. He was an alcoholic. He wasn't a drug addict.
Dowd claims the life he led was driving him crazy.
I was living 2 lives. I was a cop dealing drugs. Every day was a battle, personally.
Trouble talking to your wife? Trouble talking to your kids?
Couldn't do it. I was best off just coming home drunk so I go to sleep, and then if I was high, I'd stay up till 7 o'clock in the morning. My kid would go off to school, and then I'd fall asleep for about 3 hours and pass out and go to work.
Did your wife know what you were doing?
Well, she knows that I'm doing things wrong, but I don't tell her my business. And she's constantly telling me, whatever you're doing, stop. One night she put a gun to my head.
And?
And told me, if you don't stop, I'm gonna kill you. When's this gonna stop? She put a 9mm to my head, to my temple. I thought she was gonna kill me.
And you said to her?
I don't remember, Mike. I just rolled over and went back to sleep. I was drunk and high.
And Dowd says that most of the cops in his precinct knew that he was a drug user and a drug dealer. He didn't hide it. He bought 4 houses, wore expensive clothes, and drove to work in a $35,000 red Corvette. His fellow officers, he says, just looked the other way.
Every cop knew what I was doing and what the whole crew of cops were doing in my precinct and in every precinct in Brooklyn.
Dowd says many officers were dirty, but even the clean cops wouldn't rat on a fellow cop. That's the notorious blue wall of silence. But even worse, Dowd says, his supervisors didn't stop him because they didn't want a scandal.
This is the evaluation that...
A city commission investigating police corruption recently discovered one supervisor's glowing evaluation of Michael Dowd. At the height of Dowd's drug dealing in 1987, that supervisor wrote,
This officer could excel within the New York City Police Department and easily become a role model for others to emulate. Then in all caps ended it by saying, good career potential.
And Dowd claims the younger cops really did look up to him, but as a different kind of role model.
There's 15 or 20 of them hanging out with me in a bar after work, all rookies.
They knew that you had money to spend.
That's why they were there. They want to learn.
What did your father say to all this?
Father's devastated. He's devastated.
Absolutely devastated. So it's like a death in the family. That's how tragic it was.
Jack Dowd says son Michael was his pride and joy, the family star.
Honest, never a day of trouble, never gave us a reason to worry. And anybody who knew him would say, I could model my family after Mike. He was so good.
What happened?
He went in the police department.
Yeah.
His attitude changed, but never gave us a clue.
You have 2 other sons who are cops, New York City cops, right?
That's right.
They didn't get corrupted. Explain it.
I wish I could explain it.
The retired firefighter blames drugs and his son's supervisors, who, he says, knew Mike had a drug problem, but didn't get him help.
3 times he went to the police department, he asked for help. 3 times they told him, don't use the word drugs. Your job is finished. You say alcohol, and you go away for 30 days, you come back.
The department shouldn't have sent him back out on patrol with a badge and a gun. And a coke habit.
That's right. That was a travesty to the city of New York.
My mom is shot. You know, I got people calling me a bum and a lowlife, you know. And
he's ashamed of what he's done. He's ashamed of the problems he's caused for his family, the embarrassment for his family.
They raised 7 kids, Mike.
Are you the only bad one?
I don't know what bad is anymore, Mike.
Sure, the reason you're talking to me is because you'd like to get some of this out in front of the public and perhaps change the perception in the public that you are really, forgive me, a scumbag.
Well, Mike, I did some scummy things. I was confused. I was crazy. I was sick.
I've seldom read reports as bad as what were written about you.
I know.
And I don't think these tears are phony either. Your son is 7?
Yeah.
Would you want your son to grow up and be a cop?
No.
Because?
It's a thankless job.
As far as I'm concerned, all of them are on the take.
One self-appointed community leader, Sonny Carson, insisted that we interview him right in front of Dowd's old precinct house, the 75th.
Because the 75th is a crack house.
This precinct house is a crack
It's the biggest crack house in this area.
You don't know.
They're all in.
You don't know this.
Well, I don't know that they aren't either. I don't know that they aren't either. All I do know is that crack houses are open all around this area. Why are they open?
This guy, you know this guy?
I don't know any of them. They all look alike.
Huh? You want to talk to us a second?
Are you kidding? He's not going to talk to you.
Give me a minute. Come on over here a second.
Wow.
Here's a guy with a lot of decorations. Berkowitz has had a lot of time. How much time you had in the force?
24 years.
There are crack houses in this neighborhood?
Right around the corner. They know it.
Absolutely.
There are.
Yeah, why aren't they closed?
Will you hold it a minute?
Okay.
Why aren't they closed?
Yeah.
We make the arrests. The court system lets them go. We do our job.
It's a bunch of BS. The only thing that this guy can do for me is to get a violin out now and accompany me with it. You understand?
I talked to Michael Dowd yesterday, and he began to cry because, I mean, really began to cry because he said he ruined his life and that of his family.
And all the other people around here whose lives he ruined. I don't feel sorry for him. He should rot in hell.
How many drug-dealing cops are out there? The head of New York Citizens Crime Commission says that in as many as 10 precincts in the poor neighborhoods, pockets of police are still mixed up in the drug business. Each pocket, like Dowd's group, involves about 15 officers. It's big money. And besides to some white cops, ghetto residents are, quote, just animals anyway. A guy who knows you told us Dowd is a Long Island cowboy, one of the white Long Island boys who police the black neighborhoods of New York City. They saw their precinct as a, quote, jungle, where the people are, quote, animals, not people.
Whoever said is a complete fool. I was shocked by the way the urban blacks lived. Yes, I'll admit that.
How do you mean? Shocked.
There's no respect for themselves and no respect for anybody around them.
As we said, he was a Long Island boy. And finally, after 10 years in the force, Dowd was arrested, but not by the police in New York City. Instead, he was caught by officers in Suffolk County, Long Island, where Dowd lived, and sold some of the drugs. But after you were arrested by Suffolk County, did the New York police get involved again and question you?
They never once came to me to question me.
Why?
They were embarrassed.
Dowd says New York City police officials still wanted to look the other way, still wanted to avoid a scandal, but now it was too late. Too late for the department, too late for Dowd.
I'm not a bum. I wasn't a bum before I became a police officer, but becoming a police officer led me in these directions. If your peers happen to be doing these things, then you do them too.
Michael Dowd is waiting now to hear his sentence. He could get 12 to 15 years.